La Vuelta, stage 15. Party time? Well, not quite. They still had 158 kilometres to go before they could start thinking about the rest day. Well, this was a day that teams can traditionally go a little bit deep. And with a breakaway on the cards because of the terrain, there were many teams that had some options on this day. Bora Hansgrohe is certainly one of those, with the likes of Nico Dents, Leonard Kemna and perhaps others. One man has drawn the eye over the last couple of days is Remco Evenepoel. Whether he's having a bad day or a good day, and sometimes those things happen back to back, he is always in the spotlight, it seems, drawing attention from our race leaders, who of course are Sepp Kuss and the rest of Jumbo-Visma, it seems. And so what lay ahead of the field? 158.3 kilometres, destination Lekunberri. And with a wide open rolling plain introducing us to 3 modest climbs and a downhill run for home, this had breakaway written all over it. Last time we were here, it belonged to Marc Soler. Who would it be this time? Well, Remco Evenepoel decided that he would definitely be part of proceedings, and those who'd missed out on the first 24 rider breakaway also wanted to join the fun. One of those was indeed Marc Soler, who was marked out by Jumbo-Visma, who just did not want this to get out of hand. Well, as Jumbo were chasing everybody down, there was a split in the peloton, and suddenly we had a rather large breakaway group, including the GC men, up front. That couldn't last, and finally an acceptable breakaway went off and up the road, led of course by Remco Evenepoel. Well, he was in good company. Rui Costa was part of this engine room as well, and they tempted others out of the pack. And suddenly we had a more sensible break up the road, one that was acceptable to Jumbo-Visma, who invoked the block, the barrage, and then the peloton came back together and settled in over 2 minutes down. Evenepoel was taking mountain points to add to his King of the Mountains tally, possibly a target for him deeper into this race. And the assembly of greats up front began. Evenepoel was pushing on. That short group was too light, really, to make it all the way, and so he wanted company, and he got it. So an effective fighting force that had to be formed and reformed along the way. The likes of Nico Dents and Andrea Vendram were too much of a threat up front. The road itself seemed to be a threat, unfortunately, to Geraint Thomas. Tumbling yet again, burst gels in his pocket. We'll see how he copes with the rest day and beyond. Well, they rolled the dice, the likes of Chris Hamilton, Jimmy Jensen's as well from Alpecin de Koenig. But really this was about who could cope with the final climb and then the run for home. The pace was absolutely infernal when we got there. Dents was off the back. Kemna was deciding to push on in the chase to try and get up to Santiago Buitrago. He was up there along with Rui Costa, who'd been so busy throughout this race. Kemna bridged over, and for the first time in the last day or two, Remco Evenepoel looked to be a little bit short of resources, either teammates or indeed the legs. 3 up front went for it. Lenny Kemna tried to capitalise on arguments between Rui Costa and indeed Buitrago. Looked like he was reaching out for glory, but misjudged a corner and crashed. Well, as the arguments went on between Rui Costa and Buitrago, Kemna was getting back in, and so it was we were going to have a 3-up sprint for the line. The Evenepoel group was still closing upon them, and indeed the GC men were way down. They would have minor sprinting points to be sorted out, but this was to be a battle royal. Mind games had been played by Rui Costa in arguments with both of those who surrounded him for the victory here, and he speared through at the very last moment, and it was to be on the throw. Would it be Kemna or Costa? Costa it was. Evenepoel coming home for 4th place on the day, and a bunch sprint behind. Caden Groves picking up some vital minor points along the way. Rui Costa, well, he's a difficult man to be with in a breakaway, and so he proved on this day as well. The favourites coming home along with Groves, but Costa took the day. Been 10 years since he's had a Grand Tour win. He's got one again. Kemna in second ahead of Buitrago, Evenepoel and Kron. A cruel day for those who share any breakaway with the likes of Rui Costa. But on this throw at the line, he made his battle plan worthy. And even Buitrago, who'd argued with him in the climb, had to hand it to him. He played a blinder. Not much of the fizzy stuff left to share after this celebration. He didn't care. He got himself a Vuelta stage win. Sepp Kuss goes into the weekend as our leader and will be backed all the way to Madrid. Will fatigue play a part? It's his third Grand Tour of the year after all. Roglic and Vingegaard nearest to him overall. Team Jumbo-Visma 1, 2 and 3. So Sepp Kuss it is that takes red into the first day of the rest of this race. And it is a rest day. Okay, even a Paul. Leading the King of the Mountains jersey competition. Ayuso it is that leads the young riders classification as well, which Evenepoel once of course dominated. And so it is that we ply our trade along the coast before cutting inland. This though will be Tuesday. A light reintroduction to hostilities, hockey stick stage with a kick-up right at the very end, and a long run before we actually get to that point. La Vuelta, it beguiles 6 more days of racing before we get to Madrid. It's well worth keeping in touch with.